Before cities, before kings, before even the first carved stone, there were bones. In a cave of ice and shadows, mammoth ribs rose like pillars. Their cracks and scars were the tribe's map of survival. To the people, these bones were not dead things. They were the voice of the earth, the memory of winters, the whisper of herds moving across frozen plains. Sira, a young girl with charcoal-stained hands, could read the fissures better than most elders. She traced them like a child traces a mother's palm, seeing paths of safety hidden in ivory lines. But envy is older than fire. Her brother Arrek, the tribe's proud hunter, despised her gift. When the oracle spoke of two paths, one of famine, one of abundance, Arrek decided that truth would bend to his will. In the silence of dawn, he pressed a sharp stone into a tusk's crack, twisting prophecy itself. The council believed the lie. They chose the cliffs. What followed was ruin. Hunters scattered in blizzards, prey lost, voices drowned beneath thunderous ice. Only later, as Sira knelt in the cave and found the soot-stained splinter, did betrayal reveal its face. This is the story of the Mammoth Oracle, how a single act of envy carved disaster into bone, and how truth, like fire, cannot be hidden forever. The tribe woke with the snow. Each morning, before the sun's weak light touched the tundra, the sound of scraping flint, of crackling fire, and of wind moaning against the hides was their first breath. Life was repetition. Grind roots, tend fires, mend spears, watch the horizon for the dark shapes of mammoth herds. Yet beneath that sameness beat the pulse of survival, fragile as a spark. In the center of their world stood a cave shaped like a beast's open ribs. Its walls glistened with frost, its floor scarred by fire pits, old as memory. Inside, bones rose in arches, not scattered but placed, as if the earth itself had arranged a cathedral. Mammoth tusks jutted from the ground, cracked and carved by centuries of cold. To outsiders, they would be relics. To this tribe, they were prophecy. The oracle sat in that cave each moon cycle, feeding lamps with melted fat and dusting the tusks with charcoal ash. Shadows clung to fissures in ivory. From those lines, the oracle drew meaning. Paths safe or dangerous, hunts blessed or cursed, winters merciful or cruel. The tribe believed because belief kept them alive. Sira was the youngest allowed to linger by the oracle's side. Her small hands carried fire, fetched water, ground pigments. But she did more than serve. She watched. She memorized. She saw the way cracks spread like rivers, how they mirrored the fractures in ice, how certain arcs resembled tracks pressed into snow. She read them, quietly at first, then with words, until even the oracle admitted she saw with a gift. Her brother Arrek watched too, but with a different fire. First hunter of the tribe, praised for his spear, strong in arm and stride, he was meant to be heir to the fire circle. Yet the whispers of elders bent toward Sira, the girl who read bones, the girl who heard winter's tongue. Arrek's pride stung like a frostbite he could not warm. When the night of prophecy came, the cave filled with bodies. The tribe gathered with offerings, hides, carved beads, a share of marrow. The oracle, old and bent, lit the lamps until smoke crawled along the tusks. The ribs of mammoth glowed like pillars of fire and ice. Silence fell. The oracle's voice rasped like stone against stone. Two paths lie ahead. One brings hunger, one brings meat. He leaned close to a tusk scarred by a crack running deep as a vein. He traced its arc. Toward the cliffs, the herd gathers. Sira narrowed her eyes. The fissure did not bend toward cliffs. It curved low toward the pass where rivers cut the plain. Her hands trembled not from cold, but from certainty. She wanted to speak, but her brother's gaze pinned her like a spear. He smiled faintly, as if daring her. The council murmured. Hunters muttered of cliffs. of old drives where mammoths had fallen before. The oracle hesitated, reading again. The lamps flickered, smoke coiled, cracks seemed to shift. Sira's lips parted, ready to speak truth, yet she swallowed the words. Envy breathed beside her. Arrek's shadow stretched long across the tusk. The night ended with uncertainty. The people left, carrying both hope and doubt. Sira lingered, eyes on the fissure. She knew what it said. She knew her brother's silence would soon weigh heavier than snow. Dawn came with a knife's edge of wind. The snow glittered sharp as broken glass, the plain a vast silence waiting to be broken by footsteps. Arrek rose before the others. He strapped no spear, carried no hide, only a stone splinter chipped from a blade and blackened in soot. He moved like a shadow into the oracle's cave. Inside, the lamps had burned low, smoke staining the tusks with gray veils. Frost clung to the bone like breath frozen midair. Arrek's boots crunched softly on the ash. He touched the great tusk with reverent fingers, then pressed the stone into a fissure. With a twist, he forced the crack wider, changing its path. It bent now toward the cliffs. His breath steamed, heavy with triumph. When the tribe gathered that evening, the oracle traced the lines again. His eyes, dim but trained by decades, followed the curve. What yesterday had bent toward the pass now pointed toward the cliffs. Gasps echoed in the chamber. Arrek stood tall, silent, letting the illusion of truth settle. Sira stepped forward, voice trembling. "No, that is not the path." The crack bent low, not high. The oracle frowned, reading once more. His fingers lingered on the altered fissure. He shook his head, weary. "Child, the bone has shifted. The cliffs hold the herds." Hunters nodded. Elders murmured of tradition. The cliffs had yielded many kills before. Sira's protests felt like a child's fear against the weight of custom. Arrek met her gaze across the fire, his eyes cold, his smile thin. The council spoke. The tribe would follow the cliffs. Sira's words drowned in the tide of agreement. That night, by the fire circle, she tried again. "Brother, you know this is wrong. The pass is the way." Arrek leaned close, his shadow swallowing the firelight. "Do not speak of what you cannot prove. The tribe follows strength, not whispers in bone. Stay silent, or you will be the one cast out." Sira's chest burned hotter than the flames. She turned away, clutching her charcoal-stained hands, knowing tomorrow would bring ruin. The hunters prepared spears, lashed hides, and sang old songs of the cliff drive. Mothers prayed, children watched with wide eyes. Sira sat apart, her voice swallowed by the howling wind. Above them, the stars wheeled cold and uncaring. The bones in the cave lay silent, carrying the truth no one wished to hear. The tribe marched at dawn, a line of dark figures against a white horizon. Hides snapped in the wind, sleds groaned under the weight of tools, and the breath of 50 souls streamed like smoke into the sky. Children clutched mothers' hands, elders leaned on staffs, hunters walked with spears lifted like banners. Ahead, the cliffs waited, jagged teeth of stone rising from the tundra. Sira walked in silence, each step heavy with dread. She looked back only once, to the cave whose ribs of mammoth bone vanished in drifting snow. The cracks still whispered in her mind, bending low, never high, but no one listened. By the third day, the cliffs loomed close. The hunters prepared the drive. They marked paths with branches, set fires to funnel the herd, sharpened spears until sparks bit the air. Arrek led them, his voice strong, his stride commanding. To the tribe, he was the image of a leader. To Sira, he was the shadow of betrayal. The sky thickened with gray. Snow fell in hard pellets, stinging faces, coating furs with white crust. Still the hunters sang. They lit torches, raised their arms, and spread across the plain. Then came the herd. Mammoths vast as moving hills, their tusks gleaming like frozen moons. Their trumpets rolled across the cliffs like thunder. The ground shook beneath their march. Arrek roared the signal. Fires flared. Hunters shouted, waving torches, driving the herd toward the cliff's edge. The mammoths bellowed, confused, panicked. Their young screamed. The air turned to chaos. Smoke, snow, and bodies crashing. One bull turned, charging into the line of hunters. Spears struck, but the beast plowed through, tossing men aside. Another mammoth slipped on ice, colliding with its kin. The herd wheeled, trampling snow and flesh alike. Cries split the storm. Blizzard winds howled, erasing tracks, blinding eyes. Arrows flew wild. Hunters stumbled, lost in white madness. Sira clutched her mother's arm as screams rose and vanished. She saw Arrek atop a rock, waving his spear, shouting victory as if the disaster were triumph. But when the snow thinned, silence revealed truth. 3 hunters lay crushed, their bodies broken beneath frozen hooves. The herd had fled, vanishing into storm. The cliff held nothing but shattered branches and blood in the snow. The tribe mourned, their wails carried away by the wind. Yet some clapped Arrek on the back, praising his bravery. He bowed his head, but his eyes burned with pride. Sira turned from him, tears hot against her frozen cheeks. The cracks had warned them. The pass had been the true path, and now blood stained the price of envy. That night, the tribe huddled around weak fires. Mothers clutched their children tighter, elders whispered prayers for the lost. Arrek sat near the flames, polishing his spear as if it had won him glory. Sira sat alone, her gaze fixed on the snow-dark horizon. She knew the bones still held truth, and that she must return to them. The storm eased with morning, leaving a plain scoured clean, as if the wind itself had swallowed every trace of the hunt. Smoke from the campfires clung low to the ground. The tribe buried their dead beneath stones, marking each grave with carved bones and ash. The laments of mothers carried through the frost, and even the cliffs seemed to echo their sorrow. Sira knelt among them, but her eyes drifted back toward the distant cave. Each loss gnawed at her heart, sharpening suspicion into certainty. The cracks had spoken true. Someone had twisted them. At dusk, when others slept heavy with grief, she stole away. Her feet left shallow prints across the snow, her breath quick and urgent. The Oracle cave waited, black against the pale horizon, its ribs of mammoth bone frozen in silence. Inside, the air smelled of soot and old fat. Shadows danced as her torch sputtered. She ran her fingers along the tusk, tracing fissures worn by centuries of frost. Then her hand caught something strange, a sharp edge, wedged deep. She leaned closer. There, half hidden in the crack, lay a sliver of stone, blackened with soot, its edges unnatural. She pulled it free. The tusk's fissure shifted slightly, revealing the path she had first seen, not toward cliffs, but bending low toward the pass. Her chest clenched. Proof. A hand had altered the prophecy. Only one hunter had reason, only one who watched her with envy burning colder than ice. She carried the splinter back to camp, fingers trembling. Arrek sat alone near the fire, sharpening his spear, the flames painting his face in harsh light. She approached, heart hammering. "You did this," she whispered, showing the splinter. "You forced the bone to lie." Arrek's gaze flicked to the shard, then to her eyes. His lips curled into a cold smile. "You have no witness, only your word against mine. 3 hunters lie dead because of you." Her voice cracked, grief hardening into rage. "They died because winter takes what it wants," Arrek said. "The tribe needs a leader of strength, not a child with charcoal fingers. Speak against me, and you will be the one cast out." Sira's hands shook. The fire crackled between them, spitting sparks like tiny stars. For a moment she wanted to scream, to throw the shard into his face, to strike him as he had struck the truth, but she forced herself still. She turned from him, clutching the splinter close. If she accused him alone, he would deny it. But if the bones themselves revealed the truth, none could protect him. That night, as snow fell again, she made her choice. At dawn, she would bring the evidence before the council. The bones would speak once more, this time under fire that burned away lies. Dawn spread thin light across the snow, washing the camp in gray silence. The council gathered in the Oracle cave, their cloaks heavy with frost, their faces carved with grief. The tusks rose around them like pale sentinels. Fires burned low, ready for the ritual. Sira stepped forward, the soot-stained splinter clenched in her hand. Her voice carried through the cold. The bone was altered. The cracks did not point to the cliffs. My brother forced them to lie. Murmurs rippled. Arrek strode to the center, his spear gleaming. Lies of a jealous child, he spat. The tribe followed the path of strength. Death comes to all hunts. She seeks to shame me. The oracle lifted a trembling hand. We will ask the bones again. By fire they will speak. Torches were pressed close. The mammoth tusk glowed, heat racing through ancient ivory. The fissures darkened, lines of shadow deepening, widening. Steam hissed. The tribe held its breath. Slowly, the cracks revealed themselves, not bending high toward the cliffs, but curving low toward the pass, just as Sira had said, just as the splinter had concealed. Gasps filled the cave. Elders muttered prayers. The oracle's eyes shone with sorrow. The bones were twisted, not by earth, by man. Sira raised the blackened shard. Here is the proof. Arrek's face hardened. For a heartbeat, he seemed ready to strike, to silence her with his spear. But the circle closed around him. Hunters, mothers, elders. The weight of truth pressed heavier than stone. The council spoke judgment. Arrek would be stripped of his hunter's mark. His spear was broken across a stone and cast into the fire. He was exiled, his name to be spoken no more at the fire circle. Sira watched as her brother's eyes burned with fury and shame. When he turned and vanished into the white plain, her chest ached as if torn in two. Justice was done, but blood still tied them. The oracle laid a hand upon her shoulder. The bones chose you. You will be Bones Keeper. The tribe followed her to the low pass. The way was narrow but safe, walls of rock shielding them from wind. On the third day, the herd appeared, mammoths grazing by a river valley, their shadows long against the snow. Spears struck true, and meat filled the sleds. Around the fire that night, the people sang again. Children laughed, elders wept with relief. Sira sat apart, staring into the flames. She thought of the tusks glowing, the cracks bending true, the shard blackened by envy. She knew bones carried memory. They remembered winters, storms, the weight of betrayal, but they also remembered truth, and truth, like fire, could not be hidden forever. Thus ends the tale of the Mammoth Oracle, a story not only of bones and ice, but of envy that almost shattered a people. Sira rose because she chose truth over silence. Arrek fell because he chose pride over kin. Every betrayal leaves cracks, in bone, in memory, in trust. But cracks also let fire and light pass through. From them we learn, from them we survive. If this story of ancient betrayal spoke to you, remember this. Truth is fragile, but silence is deadly. Support the first betrayals by liking this video, sharing it with those who love dark history and myth, and subscribing so you never miss the next story, carved in bone, blood, or fire. Your voice keeps these forgotten betrayals alive.